Welcome to A.B.J, where we're going to blow your mind. Today we got two very special guests. We got, go ahead,
Joe
and
Tim.
All right, so
Hi.
why are you here? What'd you do?
What did we do?
Mm-hmm.
We were asked to come over to do this.
All right, but what was your job that we're going to talk about today?
Fire department, EMT.
All right, and I know you've had
Many jobs.
quite a few jobs that
we both had. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. So, like, what are your thoughts about said jobs?
Jobs. I can almost speak for Joe when I say as an EMT, there's never a dull moment.
No.
I can honestly say no incident or situation is ever going to be the same ever. If you're going through a routine motor vehicle accident, nothing's ever routine. It's never the same.
Right.
Safety first.
100%.
All right, but like, how did the job make you feel? Like, were you excited to be there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It had its good days and it had its bad days. Suck any day.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't. If you watch TV programs, you kind of see all the action and everything else. It's not always 100% like that.
Right.
You don't feel the adrenaline rush until after in the cool down part.
Right. Until you fully realize exactly what's happening.
Yes, 100%. Because when you've been trained and you've been trained properly, it's almost automatic. You go, okay, this is what I need to do. This is what needs to be done, and you kind of assess as you go along. It's after the fact when you are doing your report or going through what just happened that you really get amped up.
Right. So, have you ever seen a show with like police, firemen, EMTs where like
they all work together on the same front line?
Well, yeah, but in the shows they seem totally different because but what I'm saying is on the shows there's been like say cops or firemen who've been there for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So like after a while they seem to, well, we've seen this before. Like, does it ever get there to where it's like you can talk about these people who've like been injured or died as if like it's just another day's work?
Well, the thing with TV is that like you got live PD, you got live the EMT, follow the EMT squad around the fire department around. Well, first of all, I'm not gonna take nothing from them shows, and they're not gonna show you the true thing that goes on because they got to edit for TV.
Right.
But my opinion about it, whether you're a cop, EMT, firefighter, whatever, first responder, you don't have time to talk to a camera. You're there to save people's lives. That's your job.
Right.
We ain't got time to, be camera hogs or anything like that.
No,
That's
I mean
not
like
what we're there for.
Afterwards, like
even afterwards.
Do you just talk about it after a while like it's just an everyday thing? Or like since there's people at risk here, is it like a next level of you're always on your toes?
Well,
there are some instances where
it's your codes. You gotta know your codes to know what.
Yeah. There are.
You're always on your toes. I mean, there's no giving.
Do you want like an instance?
Sure. Like an example where it's just like, okay, we've Done this before.
Well, no. Okay. For instance, Super Bowl Sunday in 2005.
Mm.
We had just that night was one of those nights where everybody that presented at the ER was vomiting blood.
Right.
And when I say vomiting blood, it's just very bright, very foamy, which is the first indication of hepatitis.
Right.
We had 4 present like that. 1 stayed in-house, which meant she went upstairs. The other 3 were transferred to Peoria. So I stayed around, helped housekeeping, and clean up the rooms. I was going out with the ER secretary, x-ray technician, and I just grabbed my coat to go out. And we're going to go have a cigarette underneath the helipad. When Mary Peckus, loved her to death, was my nurse supervisor, yelled at me, "Tim, we need you now." And I turned around and went running back through the ER. As I rounded the curve, they had the door open, and there's a guy standing there, and he's just covered in blood.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. I stopped dead in my tracks, whipped off my coat, threw it in the corner, and I started assessing him. He goes, "It's not me, it's my girlfriend. She's in my truck." So I go out, I grab a wheelchair, go running out to the truck. It's a little Ford Ranger. I open up the passenger door. I'm going, where the fuck is she at? Where the hell is she at? She's crumpled on the floorboard of his truck.
Crumpled?
When he got to her house and found her unresponsive, he put her in the seat of the truck, flew to the hospital from Long Point.
So she flew off the truck?
As he hit the brakes, she slid down on the floorboard. So I get up underneath her arms, and she's just this itty bitty thing. Pick her up, throw her in the wheelchair, and she's just this limp rag doll. I pop a wheelie in the wheelchair, go flying into the hospital. I yell at Mary, "Room 7." As we went around the corner, Mary Peckus is there. There's another nurse, Mary. Dr. Bellotta was there. And Mary, the other nurse, Mary, says, "Here, I'll give you a hand." I scooped her up and was able to put her on the table by myself. She was that small.
Right.
We started doing chest compressions. And we did chest compressions for 45 minutes. Respiratory come down, put the tube in her throat, was bagging her, was at her head. I'm off to the side doing compressions. Yeah, all the other nurses are doing their thing, injecting and blah, blah, blah. Dr. Bellotta bumped respiratory over to my side because he wanted to assess her.
Right.
Doing the eyes and everything else.
Doing your normal vitals.
And as I'm doing compressions, Connie from respiratory goes, and she points. So I'm doing compressions, and as I'm doing compressions, right here, where the ear meets the skull, you can see blood. And every time I push down, it goes, "Oop."
Oh, man.
And Connie goes, "Doc?" And I'm doing compressions. He's over there looking, and he's looking. He takes the light, and he shines it down, and stop compressions. Continue compressions. So I start compressions again. Boop, boop. Takes off his gloves, looks at the clock, 0059 time of death. And Mary, the nurse, says, 01 o'clock, I hate odd numbers. Everybody is standing around going, what the hell just happened?
Right.
He goes, that, my friends, is a close contact gunshot wound. Had doctor not bumped her over to the side, because I was concentrating on compressions.
Right.
Had doctor not bumped Connie to the side, she would have never noticed that little, it was so small.
Right.
So then he called X-ray. X-ray come over and took a scan of her head, and sure enough, there was shrapnel, 9mm. And yeah, she decided to put an end to her life.
Was there no exit wound, or
because it was such a small caliber bullet.
so she just?
When she shot, she shot herself to where the flap of the ear covered the hole because she basically went like that.
Well, behind the ear.
And it went in and ricocheted around and just became like 7 or 8 pieces.
Tore it
And
up.
it's one of those things, as you noticed me telling that story, I remember names, I remember times.
Right.
I could tell you what drugs were on board at what time.
See, I was talking more like, you know, the part where you're like, I don't like odd numbers. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like, they just kind of like make light. Like, I don't know if it's like a way to like, you know, make the situation a little better. But
in the moment, I felt nothing. You know, I was just so focused on compression.
Right.
Compression. Connie's like, Tim, look. And then I'm like, okay. It was after the fact, it's like, Mary told me I needed to go home and shower, or I could go up to OR and shower. And I'm like, why? Because when I picked her up from the truck,
you were behind her.
I come up behind her, and I had blood from my neck.
So you had to
It was
make
in
sure
my
that you didn't get the
shoes.
hepatitis.
And yeah, I had to get shots.
Right.
But it's one of those things, it's like you're so in the moment that you don't realize that you're in the moment until afterwards. And when I had to do my report, they're going, how the fuck? And I can literally say, they said, how the fuck?
Right.
Do you remember this? How do you remember the times? I can tell you, it's one of those things about me. Not everybody is like me to where I remember sights, I remember sounds, I remember times,
details.
Oh my God! I can tell you what this woman was wearing. I can tell you the design of the necklace that she was wearing when they brought her in.
Right.
I could tell you the design of the earrings that were in her ear and the watch she was wearing and the tattoos that she had on her wrist. Why? Because I was focused on compression. Right.
So what you're saying is you noticed the details, but you didn't notice the fact that every time you compressed.
No, because I was so focused on her chest. Because as I'm doing her chest, I look at the wrist.
But just as quick as you did your compressions, you noticed all of these details, because most people that would mess most people up. Like, that's just not something you go around seeing every day.
It's not something you go around seeing every day, but it's one of those things. It's like
you have a time, you put it to the back of your head. Yep. But if you're with a good company or wherever, the departments, they offer you counseling. Yes. There's always somebody that you can talk to, a site, whatever.
So has there ever been like, a fire where you, or like even like how they get called for, like, say someone got hit by like a car or a train or something?
Been there.
Like, has there been any moments that you remember that aren't necessarily bad, but like when you go on scene, you just won't forget it?
Well, our captain, he always said, don't be a victim. Be careful what you do. You step. What's he do when he steps off? He breaks his ankle. So he ended up becoming a patient.
That's crazy.
Yes. But it's like Tim said, you don't focus you focus on the job at hand. And then when you got, mass casualties, everybody's, you're calling everybody in.
Right.
And you got to do everything by zone. And usually it's, okay, all right, this section here would be some minor, minimum, severe.
Right.
And they have these tags. They got different colors on them that you put, that they're labeled. You know what the tags are.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the color of them. I think it was red. Black was like severe, like almost death. Red
was severe. Yellow, black, red, orange, yellow.
Yeah. So
Yellow is like a boo-boo.
that's your
There's a cat stuck in the tree.
Yellow.
Yellow.
That is so. That makes me laugh when people say that because that's so Mayberry.
What, the cat being stuck in the tree?
Yeah. You don't call your local fire department for a cat stuck in the tree.
Yeah, you call Mr. Incredible.
This ain't Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
It all depends. It all depends on how bored your firefighters are that day.
But
yeah,
we had a call one time. This little old lady. I don't know if the woman had Alzheimer's, dementia, but I remember we thought there was something wrong with her. So we pull up. All that woman wanted to do is have somebody to talk to and then carry her groceries in.
that's awesome.
And then there was another case, and this was once a week. We get the same person calling us.
Mm.
And finally, our lieutenant said, look, you got to stop this. You're wasting taxpayers' dollars, at work because there's nothing wrong with you. You kept calling. But, you cannot not
show
up to the address.
Like, what if they
get in trouble?
What if they call and they're actually in danger, but they played the boy who called?
That's basically what the guy did.
And to even add on to that, we as first responders are bound. I don't want to say we're bound by the Hippocratic Oath. We're not bound by the same, how can I say this? Doctors take a Hippocratic Oath to try to save your life no matter what the cost.
Mm.
Whereas we are bound by that same principle. However, you're jumping off a bridge.
Mm.
You don't want to be saved. We save your life. And in the process of us saving your life, we injure you by dislocating your shoulder.
Right.
You can turn around and sue us.
So, like,
you can sue the city.
I know it sounds crazy, but like on The Incredibles, when he jumped through the window and he's like, I think you broke something.
And got sued.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's crazy. I thought that was just TV.
Well, it does happen in real life, but I will want to throw out for the volunteers, thanks for your service. Y'all do. They don't get the credit they deserve.
And I just shared something on Facebook about that.
I want to put a shout out to all the first responders that don't get paid for it. One thing you do not leave your patient.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the issue is. You do not abandon your patient, whether you like the person or not. You do not discriminate. Your job is to do whatever you can. And one thing they will tell you, one major rule. Do not promise them anything. You're not God. You're not a doctor. You're there
to do the best you can.
Exactly.
Am I going to die? Let me check on that.
I've had people ask me that. Look,
I promise there's a possibility. There's a possibility I will.
Sir, ma'am, the only thing I can say is I'm going to do my best. We're doing our best to help you. That's it.
So, has there been anyone that you guys have worked with that have been in it for only the money and their work has clearly shows?
Yep.
I rephrase that. What do you mean by the work clearly shows? Because they're just in for the money? You
can tell that they don't care. They're just
there for the paycheck.
Yes.
I cannot say that personally.
I can personally say that because working in the hospital.
Yeah, I can't say that personally.
How JoJo said, you don't leave a patient.
Mm-hmm.
If I am the first person on scene, if I'm the only person on scene, if I come up on an accident, and the first thing I'm going to do when I come up to an accident scene is make sure and welcome to the 21st century, I'm going to make sure I have my cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to grab, I say it's a rollover car accident, one vehicle.
Right.
I'm grabbing my phone. I'm grabbing, if my coat is sitting beside me on the seat, I'm grabbing my phone, I'm grabbing my coat. And booking to the scene. Because
Right.
once I make contact and it's bad enough, I know I'm not going to leave that person.
Right.
To where if I didn't grab my phone, if I didn't grab my jacket,
You'd just be stuck there.
I'd have to leave to go
Right.
get my phone. 90% of the people that are in our business will tell you the same thing. Once you make contact, never leave that person until trained personnel,
your paramedic,
better equipped
Right.
personnel show up. To where, all right, I'm a trained EMT, yes. Okay, I don't have the equipment to stop a bleed or a compound fracture. So, all right, I'm going to wrap my unsterile coat around a compound fracture, yes, to even prevent a more serious infection.
Right.
Until the bus arrives and they have the actual equipment or the fire department arrive to extricate the person from the vehicle.
Mm.
I'm there.
Right.
So, better question.
Mhm.
What exactly is an EMT?
Emergency medical technician.
So, what do they do? I mean, I know we all see them, driving around in that big box truck looking thing, but like
An EMT is basically
Glorified oxygen giver.
pretty much. If you've been in a hospital,
No
you've been in a
disrespect,
nursing
but that's
home,
basically
right, you all have seen CNAs.
mhm.
CNAs in a nursing home and hospital setting are certified nurses assistants who are basically an extension of the nurse. So
basically what EMTs are.
how whereas a CNA is a butt wiper, a bath giver, general daily life culprit.
Right.
An EMT is basically there to assess the situation and get the information to the proper.
So they're
authorities.
basically scouts.
Medical scout, yes. In a nutshell, yes.
The highest person on the EMT squad is your paramedic.
Yep.
He's the one or she is the one that is the only one to prescribe you pain meds, shoot needles in your arm, IVs. But I don't know, they might have changed that.
EMTs still cannot give IVs.
Oh, they
It
can't.
can be a paramedic, and then they have a step below a paramedic.
As I said, they changed a lot of things.
When I first became an EMT, you had to recertify every year.
Right.
And I think it's every 2 years now. For a paramedic, I think for a paramedic, it's like a doctor.
Right.
It's like a nurse. There's constant ongoing training.
It depends on your state.
And everything changed. When I first became an EMT, CPR consisted of 2 breaths, four chest compressions, 2 breaths, 4 chest compressions, boom, boom, boom.
I switched it.
And now they tell you to do away with the breath and just concentrate on the chest compressions, because the body's natural reaction when you release the chest is to
get more
gasp. So
yeah, but if you're not getting
it's just enough
oxygen to the lungs, then how are you supposed to?
Well, you got to remember, lungs ain't nothing but like an airbag.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
all
So
they just
how
want
are you
the
supposed
blood to continue to flow, because brain death. Sure, a lack of oxygen causes brain death, but their understanding is there's enough oxygen in the blood to make it oxygen rich enough. You want to keep the blood flow going.
Yeah.
Concentrate on blood flow. If they actually, in my opinion, if they're turning gray or turning blue, you're damn right I'm going to give a couple breaths.
Right.
Well, there's got a blockage from it.
Yep.
They got something lodged. There's a block that's cutting off there.
And
usually 9 times out of 10 when that happens, you get an angio. An angio, which goes down your. It looks like a duck bill.
It's kind of like one of those things that you stick down the drain.
Well, when you
to unplug it.
Well, no, what it is, the angio, what it is.
It's like a big, like a shoehorn for the throat.
Yeah, and then
I know what you're talking about.
When you put the ventilator in, and then you got that bag.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because it depresses the tongue and opens the airway, and
right.
Anything that's destructive, it'll get rid of it.
So, personally,
And you do not do that while they're conscious,
No.
by the way. Let's put that out there. You do that if they're unconscious.
They're under, yeah.
Because you're gonna make somebody very mad. Because that's very uncomfortable.
so as a firefighter, what would you say you personally, I know you can't speak for everyone, what would you personally say was your moral code?
Well, there's several ways to look at that. You got a buddy. You don't leave your partner.
Okay.
That's your first obligation is your partner. You go in together, you come out together.
Right.
It's the way it is.
No man left behind.
That's right.
All right.
No questions asked.
How about you? What's your moral code for being an EMT?
My moral code as an EMT, it was kind of like what Joe said, you go in, you come out together. You never give up.
But see, they focus more on the patients.
In training, one of the things that they always told me, and it didn't matter if it was EMT training or CNA training or whatever, you treat that patient like it is a member of your family.
Like you've known them your entire life.
And I always used to joke is like, what if I don't like that family member?
Yeah, well, you're going to get charged. I tell you.
But no, there is no such thing as
right.
Quit.
Right.
You better give your
You go into a fire.
You better give 120%, if not more.
You're giving 120%, and
Yes.
you don't even realize, hey, dude, Joe, did you know we fought that fire for 18 hours straight? You're going, what? There's been times I've done compressions on somebody that felt like 15 minutes, and it was an hour and a half.
And usually that's odd because usually they tell you to give up after a certain point, but you don't give up.
No, you can't. Prime example. I'll give you another story. I had went to. I was a police dispatcher, forest reader.
Mm.
I had just punched in, started my shift. I was getting a report from Melissa and Bill. And the way dispatch is set up was in an L shape. Melissa was sitting in this corner. Bill was sitting in this corner. My counsel was right here. And when 911 rings on our computers, and County and Livingston County are the same way, it goes from the regular home screen. It pops up red with bright yellow name, address, phone number. And the only way you get rid of that screen is by clicking, it's not accept, acknowledge.
Yeah.
We usually don't piss with that screen until the ambulance gets there. We're on scene. So I come in, and up on the screen is my uncle's name and address and phone number. And I just nonchalantly like, oh my God.
Took the call.
I said, Melissa, who was it? Man or a woman? She goes, what? I said, who called 911? Man or a woman? She turned around and looked at the screen. She goes, I said, was it a man or a woman? She goes, it was a man. And my supervisor happened to be sitting in there. Says, go. It was for an unresponsive woman. I jetted to her house. My aunt had just went to the hospital, and just wasn't feeling right. She went to the doctor's appointment, and she'd asked my uncle to take her back to the hospital on his way to work. She's standing in front of her screen door, says, oh shit, through the glass screen door, and lands on the porch. So as I come pulling up, the ambulance was already on scene. Ron Sievers was there, and he yells at me, get in the back. I'm like, Ron, she's a DNR. Get in the back.
So, now, that being said, I'm going to hold you right there.
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, people don't know what DNR means. Do not resuscitate.
DNR. do not resuscitate.
All right. This is for the podcast. People watching. All right. In order for that to work, I've had many problems with that. Even though that person does have that in effect, you need to let them know their family member needs to have paper in hand. If they don't have paper in hand, we got to do our job. Boom, they're bringing them back. There's no suing.
Yep.
You got to have paper in hand. You got to have it right there and issue it to another EMT.
And I'm glad you brought that up because my uncle was inside the place looking for the paper.
Right.
However,
Because people misconstrued what
Yep.
DNR.
yep.
Let's get that out there for the
Well,
viewers.
as I was doing compressions on my unresponsive aunt in the back of a bus flying down the street,
Mhm.
I had the presence of mind to call the hospital.
Because the hospital should have it on. Wow.
I said, and bless Sue's heart, it was Sue, the ER secretary I always worked with, and says, I'm coming in hot. It's my aunt. I need you to get a hold of medical records. She's a DNR. I'm in the process of doing CPR. And I threw the phone. Continued chest compressions as they wheeled us in, because of course I'm on top of my aunt doing compressions. Ron and Shannon was actually bagging her, and we got her into the room, and I hopped off, was still doing compressions as medical records handed the freaking document to the doctor, who then come in and had us stop.
By law, you have to stop.
As soon as he's presented with that paper.
So, how do you feel about DNR cases?
When I was in CNA school,
Let him explain it and I'll have my explanation.
I'm a DNR.
Mm-hmm.
I'm young.
Debatable.
I do not want a machine living for me.
Right.
If there is beyond a shadow of a doubt that
You won't make it.
I will not make it, or I can't be at least 50% of who I am now, let me go. Because my organs and parts of my body are more beneficial to somebody else.
Right.
Now, mind you, I took a CNA course 20 years ago, so I was 32 at the time. And my instructor, who was a nurse, I think she needed to go change her Depends because she about died when she found out I was a DNR. And young people, all right, you at 20 years old, would you sign a DNR paper right now?
Yeah. If I was in the same guidelines as you, and like if I, let's even go 70%. Like if I cannot function the way I do normally, where I have to have someone doing something for me, I do not want.
And that is why I was a DNR.
Right.
Because if quality over quantity.
Right.
Anybody that knows me will tell you, what is the one thing I'm always telling my friends? I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah.
Right. My thing on it, I agree with the machines, but I think our state government, whatever, they need to revamp themselves on the DNR order. I don't believe this is my opinion. I don't think that CPR classifies as that. Now, when you got to ventilate somebody and you got a DNR, then okay, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're giving CPR, I don't think that should classify as a DNR.
Why?
Because they're not having a machine breathe for them. And I can understand that.
So like they're not
machine either.
They're not at danger of losing their life or body function.
Well, you really don't know that. You don't really know the case until you get to the hospital.
Prime example. You're playing baseball. You take a line drive to the chest that stops your heart.
Right.
It knocks the wind out of you.
You're out. You're dead.
Right.
Until I start CPR. You're a DNR. Do I do CPR? Nope.
Can't.
And
as a good Samaritan who doesn't know you and doesn't know that you're a DNR,
and they can't get sued.
I can start CPR on you.
Unless you got somebody there, like if you ain't at home and not carrying the papers with you, sorry, we still got to do our job.
Right.
There was a case that we were in that happened. It was on a female, older woman. We had argued with the daughter. She's like, well, my mom's a DNR. You do not resuscitate her. I said, well, unless you have the paper to prove to us, we got to do our job.
Right.
You know, she couldn't find the papers. I guess the hospital at the time, they're in between moving or whatever the case may be. They couldn't find them. Well, guess what? We had to bring her back.
Right.
Okay.
Did you bring her back?
Yes. She lived. The daughter ended up trying to sue the department. Well, they got thrown out. Okay, that's why I brought up the fact that people don't understand what DNR is. You got to have paper at hand. You know,
Right.
Some people don't want to be resuscitated, but I think it all depends on the case.
All right, going off that, out of the people who didn't have the paperwork and were successfully resuscitated, do you think they found a new value in life where they want to take away that DNR status?
Yes. There was a couple cases that happened.
Because, like, as of right now, we're living, nothing major has happened to us. So,
knock on wood.
Right. So, we're like, yeah, we don't care. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
I agree with Joe with that. Like I said, for me, my DNR, I don't want to be a vegetable.
Right. Me neither.
I do not want to be one with a machine.
Right.
If you come in and not knowing I'm a DNR and you find me unresponsive on the floor, your first instinct is, oh shit, let's start CPR. And until you have a medical doctor tell you, stop.
Then you have no choice.
You have no choice. I drop right now in your kitchen. You guys don't know I'm a DNR. You do CPR. They get me to the ER. This is a boo-boo clinic right now that doesn't have my medical record. So what are they going to do? They're going to save my life.
Unless your wife comes up there with the paperwork.
And that's just it. You're doing CPR on me. Might get my heart started. I might go to cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest.
Right.
To where I just need a thumped on the chest a couple good times and boom, my heart started back up. Guess what? There is no machine breathing for me.
Right. So it's within the guidelines.
It's in my opinion. And yep. To where if like I said, if there's no beyond a shadow of doubt that
you're not going to come out like in a coma,
let me go.
Yep. Cut it off.
All right. We've been talking about, how you'd react to patients and a lot. So, like, how has it affected you as people, mentally, physically?
As an EMT? It has given me a wicked sense of humor.
Big wake-up call.
A big, yeah. It's kind of made me... I'm not a...
Less fragile?
No. When it comes to the medical side of it, I am not...
We're not as tough as that you think you are.
It's made me more... I'm not OCD. I'm not anal. But when it comes to the medical side of things, I'm very anal, very OCD.
Right.
I touch you. I got to wash my hands before I touch him. Stuff like that. It's made me more cognizant of my surroundings. To where... How many times have you gotten out of your car in a snowstorm without looking down
at where the ice is and stuff?
And that's one of the things as an EMT, it's like, and until you asked me that question, it never dawned on me. It's like, fuck, I always look down when I get out of the vehicle. Always. I always look down.
But we're always,
yep.
When you're on the job, that's number one rule, PPE,
yep.
gloves, mask.
Yeah.
whatever.
The only time you do not worry about PPE is an extreme emergency. Trust me when I say.
Sometimes you don't have time to grab your PPE.
I've held somebody's brain in my hand.
Okay.
Without gloves. I've had my finger in a stab wound. I've had my finger in a bullet hole. I'm sorry, did I say bullet hole or not butthole?
Sorry, we got comical side to us.
Like I said, it's given me a wicked sense of humor.
You know, my biggest thing, you know, one person that I truly wanted to save was my mother. Well, epic failure. You know, I asked myself, she'd be gone, be 10 years next month. I asked myself over and over again what I could have done different. You know, I beat myself up over it. But then again, another side of me says, okay, well, you know what? Back to your training. You're not God. You can't promise anything.
Right.
But it's a little different when it comes to your family member to a complete stranger. Are you going to go up and beyond for your family over a stranger? No, you're going to do about the exact same thing.
Just common morality.
You know, that being said, you know, that's like when we were in, me and Tim were talking about this last night. I think you were at work. When we were doing our training, we had to go through they had this old high school where each classroom set up for different scenarios. You know, you got your electrocuted victim, you got your fracture, you got somebody that's unconscious and needs an angio. Well, we got to this one classroom, they had this young chick in there, young lady. She was about 16, 17 years old, big breasted. Young girl, young lady. You'll be amazed. There was 10 of us males that refused to do that. So we got that checked off.
Right.
So we basically failed that one because we refused to do it because we're men. But that being said, that's in a classroom setting.
Right.
Now, when you're out in the actual field doing that, you don't think of stuff like that.
Right.
You know, and we didn't, I mean, come on, we knew what we were going into. We were in a classroom setting. You know, it wasn't like, hey, we got to do this. You know, no.
Right, or it's life or death.
Right.
That's
And
funny.
this wasn't that case.
And you know what? There's been times, like with my aunt, you're going to see different parts of the body.
Right.
Well, I've
And
delivered babies.
I don't know if it's me or not, because, like I said, I can remember sights, I can remember sounds, what people are wearing, jewelry, whatever.
Smells.
You know what? My aunt, when I was doing compressions on her, was not wearing her shirt because they had cut it off. I cannot remember what her chest looked like. I've had to deal with young car accident victims,
Right.
when they've stripped every stitch of clothes off of them and they're laying there nude.
You don't take it like that.
But you know what? I cannot remember. I can remember if they had a scar, if they had a tattoo, but I don't remember
Basic
the body.
features.
Right.
I can't tell you if he had a Big Johnson or Big Hooters.
Right.
That stuff is just gone.
Right. You don't think like that when you're out.
And I don't and that even goes into my CNA.
Right.
When I've taken care of all these older people, male, female, transgender, whatever. Yeah, I don't remember. And I'm
politically correct on that.
Right. But yet, like you said, in a classroom setting, it's like, I ain't touching that.
No.
But in the real world, you're touching it,
Right.
but you don't even know.
Right.
And you're not even recognizing
Right.
that. Holy shit, Marilyn Manson.
Right.
This is Marilyn Monroe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But you don't, because you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe. You know?
Right.
So, like, outside of money, what benefits do these jobs have? like life skills or
outside of money, you're not in it for the money if you go on EMT. Honestly,
if you're in for it, the money, then I suggest you pick another career. I'm not saying it's not a good career choice because it is. The money's all right.
all depends on the department. To where if you go Chicago Fire Department,
Right, CFD.
For me, that's great money. For them, it sucks because the higher cost of living.
Yeah.
Down here, it's awesome money because it's the lower cost of living. EMT for me to ride on the back of a rig is paid less than a CNA in a nursing home. What I took away from being an EMT, and anybody that knows me knows, I'm very compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very caring. It takes special people to do our job, because I'm not saying nobody can do my job.
You got to be.
The heart has got to be there.
Right.
I left EMT because the ambulance service was sold to the hospital. I left CNA, and this is funny. This is as a CNA, it got to be routine. They tell you, do not get used to, don't become friends with the residents and their families. You cannot not get comfortable. You're always getting offered gifts and everything else. What was killing me is if I'm taking care of you and your wife comes in every day, 4 or 5 times a day, and then she suddenly starts getting ill and passes away, that leaves a hole. Right. And then you watch your resident degrade and just go down that same rabbit hole.
So you're losing one person.
You're losing
pretty much killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
And I literally, as a CNA, burned out. I couldn't take it anymore. As an EMT,
it's about the same.
It was about the same, but I'm not caring for that patient.
Right, on a day-to-day basis.
You're
on a right there minute.
I liked the thrill of the job. I really did. Like I said, nothing was ever routine. There was no such thing as a routine broken bone. There was never a routine stitch. There was, oh my God, a head injury. All you have to do is say head injury, and routine goes out the window because everyone is different.
Right.
Just got to figure out which one it is.
Yep. And then you get the ones, like Joe said earlier, the phantom calls. They're just lonely. Sure. I was like, oh my God, this person again. And you get there, it's like, hi, Joe. How you doing? And we have one over on Vermilion Street every other day. He's in a motorized wheelchair. He goes in his driveway pulling weeds. His driveway is gravel. Every other day. 911, where's your emergency? Oh, Mr. Smith fell out of his wheelchair again. The fire department gets called out and they're going, son of a bitch. And they get over there. It's like, Mr. Smith.
Brady, you have any questions, Brady?
Boom, boom, boom.
He's over there quiet. You have any questions?
No.
He's just enthralled.
Have you had, I know that wintertime, Christmas time, is the highest suicide rates. Do you think some of the shadow calls are just people trying to get help without saying what they need help with?
Yeah.
Because I was talking to someone at work today, and they were like, yeah, just I talk to people whether I want to or not, because when people talk, they just need someone to vent to, even if they're not coming straight out with their problem.
I mean, yeah, we're there to, do whatever for the community, but, they got to also take into consideration when they're taking our time.
Right.
Okay, there could be a child, mother, father, somewhere across town that really needs, and we're missing out on that call.
Right, but
because we're wasting. Well, I don't want to say wasting our time, but That's one thing. If you take the class that teach you scenarios, and Tim knows this one. All right. First of all, let's put this out there. Every call, I don't care what it is, you better have scene safety first before you let anybody go in or do whatever.
Right.
Scene safety is the first thing you do.
For example, like if it's been raining and there's a down power line, you got to check that out before you can do anything.
Right. And then what a lot of people don't realize, when you go into somebody's home, pay attention. Pay attention to your firefighters, your police officers, your EMTs, because they all do the same thing. They keep their back to the door. They're close to that door. And if a police is on scene, if you're an EMT or a firefighter, the officer will come out and let you know, scene is safe, you can go in and do what you got to do. When a burning building, well, that's kind of different.
I had one instance where it was a domestic. Girlfriend had a fractured orbital bone and head wound. So
Right.
she was. It was. You know. Do you know the initials ETOs? Let me see. Was it ETOH? ETOC? ETOH on board. ETOH. That means. Have you ever heard the expression ETOH on board?
Mm-hmm.
They've been drinking.
Right.
Both subjects, domestic, boyfriend, girlfriend smacked the boyfriend smacked the girlfriend with a lamp. Well, they had the boyfriend out of the house and scene was secure. As we're treating the girlfriend on the ground, we hear the back door open, and the noise that came from the back door, I could only liken to a bunch of alley cats fighting, 15 of them at once, screaming. Well, apparently what the boyfriend and girlfriend were fighting about was side chick. And side chick comes screaming through the back door. When you're hunched over a patient and the scene is supposed to be secure,
Yeah.
always make sure there's at least one cop in there with you because he had my back. Or else, because if the cop didn't have my back, as I'm hunched over working on the patient, that bitch was going to kill me to get to her.
Right.
Yeah, you have that.
Scene safety, and like you said,
PPE.
you know.
That and PPE. You know, and what I was saying earlier that you learn in training, they teach you scenarios. In other words, okay, if you're in the same class, the instructor will hand you a knife. It's a rubber knife. Plastic.
Right.
All right. Tim's job or my job when it's our turn, we're to talk you down and get that knife out of your hand to keep you from killing yourself. You got to know, and this takes different. Not everybody can do this.
Right.
You don't go in, bitch, put down the knife.
You know, and you got to be able to talk to people. If you can't talk to people, well, that's just not your field of work.
All right.
You know, if you don't like people,
Which I see nowadays, you know, just watching you live, you know, go to stores and stuff, like you can strike up a conversation with anybody. I work at Dollar Tree and I suck at small talk. Always have, and I always will.
Talk.
Huh?
I'm glad you added small talk.
Why?
Or else you just suck.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, and that's the thing.
Okay.
You got to be able to communicate with people.
Right.
All walks of life.
100% agree with you. Remember when I first started coming over? You remember one of the first things I told you? I'm not going to ask you a question
That you don't want to know the answer to.
That's small talk.
Well, kinda. Small talk, I mean, is more like you're gonna see this person for like less than 5 minutes, so you're just, hey, how are you? how are the kids? I, for the life of me, cannot bring myself to do it.
Okay, that's like before he got. We went walk across the street. Well, I see these ladies
All the time.
twice, 3 times a day.
Right.
But
I've seen it to where you, like, even if you know the person and haven't seen them in said period of time, you're like, hey, what's up? Nope. I, like, when I have to talk to somebody less than an actual conversation, it doesn't even have to be a long conversation. I just can't bring the words to my mouth.
Physically or mentally?
Like, I can think these words, but they just don't come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depends on the situation.
I've had a doctor tell me before I could have a conversation with a dead person for 2 hours and never repeat myself.
Yeah.
What'd you have?
Huh?
What'd you have?
I have.
Yeah.
But
Love you, Mama Geary.
all the fucking time. But there's a knack to it. You just don't feel comfortable doing it yet.
Comes with age. It comes with experience.
So you guys are super experienced.
Yes.
Oh boy.
It comes with the working with people.
Yes. Yes, but
And yeah, there's some people, and I'm telling you, and like Tim said earlier in the broadcast, every scene is different. And when I sit there and told you, you cannot discriminate, okay? Say there's a child molester, he's a child molester, okay? He's bleeding out. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter.
It's still your job.
I'm not God.
We're not God, but you still have to put your differences and your feelings. That's the thing about EMTs and firefighters and police officers. Every scene's different, but you got to be professional.
In our professions, everybody was a Jane Doe or a John Doe. You don't know them.
Right.
You treat them like family, but you don't know them.
Right.
That's the only way. Are there instances where I went on a call that was just so routine and mundane that I totally forgot about it until something was said? Hell yes. There are times where something routine and mundane sticks out in my head. Yes. And only because of an extenuating circumstance. Went to a call that she got. She slammed her daughter's fingers in the car door. And it popped the fingernail off. And she kept the fingernail, hoping we could save it. The only reason I remember that call, had the most gorgeous dog.
Child abuse case. Those are the roughs. That and rape victims.
I had, in my experience,
personal and your personal feelings out of it.
In my personal experience, I've never had a rape. I've never had any kind of sexual. I've had 2 suicides. But nothing is always traumatic or mundane.
Right. No in between.
No.
Yeah, it just nothing like that. But even working at the hospital.
So let's say, you get to one of the cases. How would you approach it? You know what I mean?
Very delicately. It's hard.
Because I know, when someone, sad, it's like, okay, what do I say? What do I not say? But these people have been traumatized. So it's like 100 times worse. You know what I mean?
Yes. I just approach the situation like I've been told. When I come in, even coming here, I come in, I start roasting right away. And
oh, yeah. We love our roasts.
Sometimes even with carrots.
With carrots and potatoes.
Baby carrots. Deep on the
You
duck
come in,
side of your butt.
and you talk to them like they're a person.
Yes.
If I've ever talked down to somebody, it was never intentional. But you talk to them. You don't talk at them.
Right.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Right.
Talk to me. I've had times when I've done that, and it's like, fuck you, you're not my friend. Who the fuck are you?
Right.
It's like, hey, I've had instances where families called me because little Joey over here is struggling. He won't take his meds. And he's literally throwing toys, throwing computers at me. It's like, dude, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm just trying to understand the problem. And you throwing the freaking laptop at my head ain't helping. What's going on?
And that's a felony right there.
Now, but when I was doing it, it wasn't. But
as long as you're on duty, it's a felony. You hit an EMT or a firefighter, and why they're on duty, that's a felony. It's like hitting a cop.
But you just every situation requires a delicate approach.
Right.
And everybody knows, from dispatch and muscle through the fucking walkies, man. Shit does get screwed up.
Yeah.
Misconceptions.
I mean, we're human.
Yes, and that's one thing that people and the viewers need to understand.
It's
Police
like,
officers, firefighters, EMT, we're human.
let's take it to like a more relatable approach. Like, everybody has a job. Well, almost everybody has a job, right?
Everybody's
yeah, whether you get paid for it or not.
Right.
And somebody's calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, you always got somebody calling the shots.
So these people, like, let's say you're on phone with customer service, and they're trying to do their job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going by what they are told to do.
Right.
And you're getting angry at them. That's not going to help anything.
Yep.
No.
Actually, by the way, if you sound angry, you get more free stuff in your email. But regardless of that, like the situation at hand, say you have a wedding coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And say you ordered, I don't know, like a dress off of line, and it's not going to be here on time.
Well, then you got every right to be upset, and they need to get it.
Hold up. If, they had something mess up, they're human too.
Right, but then they need to accommodate you.
Right, in some way.
Yes.
Like whether they give you your money back or not, so you can go to a store and get a dress there. But they can only do so much. Just like, the EMTs or the firefighters can do so much.
Right. We go above and beyond.
Like, I'm going to tell you, America is so pampered, right? Like, it's just, they want what they want right now and they want it their way. That's not how the world works.
Well, no.
There are hiccups in everything, no matter what you do.
We are the best country in the world to live in.
Welcome to the United States of Burger King.
Yeah, right. We want it our way right away.
Welcome to a good burger, home and a good burger. Can't take it harder.
I want it, and I wanted it yesterday. And you
Right.
should have known I wanted it yesterday.
Right. Like, I was at work the other day, and they were like, hey, can you pull this pallet? Da, 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 da. And I was like, yeah. How soon do you need it? Because I got other stuff that I need to do. And they're like, well, we could have used it yesterday, but...
Right.
Then you should have told me the day before.
Right.
Well, I wasn't.
Then you needed it tomorrow, so you were not telling me today that you needed it yesterday.
Right.
Well, yeah, but...
It ain't like Wimpy or Popeye.
Right.
You give me a burger now, I'll pay you the second Tuesday next week.
So, the job itself, what is something that people need to consider or prepare for, before they decide to choose the living that you guys did?
Well, that's very hard to answer.
Right,
it's
but
not for everyone.
For me, long hours, nasty working conditions,
right,
all types of weather,
Yes.
all types of people. If you're racist, need not apply.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter. Hi, welcome to Streeter, a town of 13,000 people, where our demographics lean more towards the elderly and the youngsters.
Right.
Middle age is a declining demographic for our town because they're moving elsewhere.
Right. Trying to go for something bigger and better.
Money.
This town's starting to be like a retirement community.
Whereas just a city council last night, we're a very poor community.
Right.
We are a lower class community. And I don't say that as a slap to Streeter. It was a working class community that lost major industry.
Coal industry, glass, peanut butter.
Was Streeter used to be an automotive manufacturer.
Right.
We used to make the Pullman rail cars.
We lost all that.
Lost all that. So then guess what? Glass became our savior.
Right.
Well, then Thatcher's decided to pull out and go to Mexico. That left Owens. Well, glass is a dying commodity where
everything's plastic. Yeah.
Because everything's plastic. So they had to revamp and went from strictly doing Miller clear bottles and pop bottles to where they do all the liquor bottles.
Right.
We lost our hospital. At one time, the hospital was
bankrupt. I heard.
The biggest employer of Streeter.
Right.
And boom, almost 300 jobs disappear overnight.
Right.
To where Vactor, but like I said, our demographics, because the lower cost of living in this town has brought an influx of lower income people because it's easy to get around town. I can leave the extreme south side of Streeter and still make it to the extreme north side of Streeter in less than 2 hours.
Right.
Try doing that in Ottawa.
You can't.
All types of weather, it doesn't matter. And Joe can attest to this. The colder and the shittier and the rainier time of the weather are your most calls.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
The long hours,
especially Christmas. Christmas trees catch fire.
Holidays, let's go deep fried turkey.
That, and then this too.
Let's go make deep fried snowballs.
If anybody out there has a fireplace, make sure you get it maintained once a year because that's a number one cause of fire. You got to clean that flue out.
Right.
They do have chimney sweep. They got these things you can buy at Walmart that helps break that
creosote. Yep. And if I tell you what, space heaters. If you need help with your freaking bills, contact Salvation Army, IHEAP, or any Red Cross center.
Yes.
They help with your utility bills to keep your heat on. Do not
use space heaters.
Space heaters. I can understand a space heater when you're awake. Do not light the burners on your stove and your oven and leave the oven door on.
Right.
No.
You do not heat your house by your oven.
You don't.
You eat your food by your oven.
Right.
Swallow your pride, ask for help. Because I'd rather dole out money to put your heat back on than dole out money to bury you and your family.
Right. I mean, we've talked about it before. I'd rather, spend a couple hours talking to you than spend 15 minutes at your eulogy.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. Many, many times.
And that's a lot of problem. People they gotta bite their pride and ask for help.
Right.
It's not so much pride as
they feel like they're ashamed.
No.
And they shouldn't be ashamed.
Yes.
I'm talking about the ask for help for your electric bill, even your water bill, and that's the problem with our society. But then again, you got our governments too that turn people down.
Look, if we want to have a whole nother podcast for the problems of society, I'm down.
All right. What's the next question?
Well, what would you say is the hardest part of the job?
Dealing with the patients. Family. Watching.
I was just going to do one better. I'd say family.
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 Watching them lose everything they own, and that pulls at the heartstrings.
Right.
And there's nothing really you can do but give them places they can go to get
Try to
help.
console them as people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hardest. Knowing that you can't really help them.
When we get involved, this is all new territory for the people calling us.
Right.
Where we do have
Experience with
avenues
it.
and resources that we can give to them, because they're
Lost.
yes, it's a whole new world.
Right.
But they also got to remember, they can't expect us to do it for them. They got to do it for themselves.
Right. Many times actually,
that's not our job.
I've had a family member come up 3 or 4 different times at the shop because she had questions, you know.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
and that is, you know, please, if you have questions, call us. Stop.
Right.
I'd rather answer that question than leave you in limbo. But there's assistance out there. You know,
Yes.
you know, don't go it alone. I'll be the first to admit that I like to go it alone because I'm big, strong, bad boss.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
I am very stubborn. I do have to swallow my pride.
We have pride.
I have to keep telling myself I'm not being a burden.
Right.
But I understand where
you look at the big picture.
Yes.
You know, as far as what you said earlier, would I recommend that job? Yes, I would.
Yes.
I would.
I would. Because it's
self
Fulfilling.
That and it's self-respect. It's, you know,
it makes you feel like you did good.
So at any part
self-driven
of having the job, did you feel like you had a chip on your shoulder? Like, not that you're better than people, but like you find yourself to be essentially a hero?
No. If you know me.
I've had a lot of people say, you know, you're a hero. No, I'm not a hero. The heroes are the men and women that are fighting for our freedom. Those are the real true heroes.
Which most of those will also tell you,
right,
like, don't thank me for that because it's
their
doing what I love.
Right. You know, and police officers. I mean, EMTs and firefighters, yeah, we put our lives on the line all the day, every day. But our soldiers, those are the real true heroes.
The people that let the EMTs and firefighters be
that being said,
who they are.
That being said, the true heroes are the survivors.
Yep.
Are the survivors. Those are the true heroes. Not the men and women that do our job, that do their job. Because that's the profession we chose.
Yep.
Right.
But the survivors are the true heroes in this scenario.
Well, you said they're survivors, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, what about the people who have fallen? Like I know they're victims, but they can be. Like, what classifies as a hero? You know,
doing it above and beyond. You're who you are.
To me, classifying a hero is doing something above and beyond your scope of duties without retrospect.
Don't lie to me. You looked that up in a dictionary.
No, I'm without
due diligence.
Without
anybody telling you
exactly
acting upon morality above.
You go above and beyond for your human kind.
Humility.
There's a lot of ways to define hero.
Yep.
Right.
The fallen, were they heroes? Yes, they were.
All right. I'll pose this question to you then.
Okay.
Hey, they're the ones supposed to be asking us the question.
You talk somebody off a ledge from trying to take their life, and you succeed at keeping that person from doing that act.
Do you consider yourself a hero?
You consider yourself a hero?
No.
Why not? Because you're just being compassionate. You have love for your fellow human.
Right.
And
if I'm being honest, like,
you got everyday heroes.
Personally, I
Whether they wear a uniform or not, you got everyday heroes.
You can say it's because there's a camera rolling or whatever, but personally,
Oh, I forgot.
I don't care. I don't care if I don't like you. I don't care, like,
I like you.
what stigmas there are around your person.
Right.
Like, as you said, like, a sexual predator. Like, as people.
Wait a damn second.
Hey, we're on camera.
It's not about, the person. It's about
Human.
Well,
It's
interaction,
having
honestly.
compassion.
That being said, what you just said, I'm not going to come out and say what you said, but I do not, in my years, I have no compassion for a sex predator.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
As a human, because you wasn't thinking about them children. This is a fine line when we talk about that. When you take advantage of a child, I have no remorse for you. But if I'm on a job and that's my job to save your life, then I got to do that.
well, also being said, like, it's not my place. Like you said, you
Right.
don't play God. It's not
We're not
my
God.
place to decide whether you live or die, right?
Right.
Karma will bite you in the butt.
Yes, it will.
So I am not going to take it upon myself to just let you die.
Right.
If-
No.
Right.
I wouldn't allow that.
If, like, someone else, like, say these people get a call because
COVID.
they're sexual predators, right?
Yes, audience, we know we're not doing the 6 foot rule, but we don't care.
All right. There are certain people in my life that I consider heroes. There are certain people in my life that I hold high on a pedestal
Right.
Me too.
because
My brother was my hero.
they've shown to me their compassion, their loyalty, their caring. But the people that I consider heroes and put up on that pedestal, you might not view them like that, and you might not view them like that. But to me,
We all have personal.
You know more about that person than we do.
right, like the soldier, like the police officer, like the firefighter, the EMT. We know going in, well, in my instance, because as an EMT, going into it, I knew there was dangers and I knew there was some risks involved. Until doing the job, the feeling of accomplishment far outweighed the risks.
Right.
I've been spit on, I've been attacked, I've been assaulted, but to get that call for an unresponsive baby, and you're able to get to that baby and get the baby breathing, saved, and to where it needs to go, is more fulfilling than getting smacked upside the head with a laptop.
Right.
Who cares about that?
So,
And that's it.
all right. So, as you as people, not as your jobs, right? Say that out of kindness, you tried. Say it's like a domestic dispute. It's really none of your business, but out of love for your fellow human, you try to help and you get attacked, right? Will that sway your desire to help?
No. Because that's who we are.
No.
That's who we are.
Because at 19 years old, I decided to stop a fight in the middle of City Park and got stabbed in the neck.
When you got that mindset to help people and you take that oath.
I've always been a helper. Ever since I was a little
kid, yeah. Even though he always got us in trouble. Yeah.
I was helping.
Yeah, helping the kid trouble.
Getting in trouble.
But on the good side, no. But
All right. What about you, Braden?
come on, man. You get silent this whole.
Out of
I love it. Man.
Like,
this is awesome.
This is
kindness,
cool. I forgot about the camera.
out of kindness, like, would you help your fellow man just out of love for,
Yeah.
I mean, hell, we can even like broaden the horizons. Like, you see an injured dog or a cat clawing at the window because it's cold. So, do you decide to open the door or not?
Yes.
What are you, a ham? What is it?
Humanitarian.
Yeah, is that what you are, Jordan?
And it's funny that you asked them that question. You know, I stopped in the middle of 23 because there was a fox that got stunned by a truck. And I picked it up, put it in a box, and took it to the vet.
That's awesome.
That's me.
Now, see,
In the middle of 23, right there past Leaner Blacktop. Ooh.
now living in Florida as I did, their law is you get caught.
You can tell by the accent.
Yes, I did.
Now, their law is you're not allowed to run over a turtle. If you see a turtle crossing the road,
You're supposed to stop.
You got to pick that turtle and put it up. Don't get caught running it over.
Yep.
You know, and you wouldn't want to run it over anyway, even if it wasn't the law. And the turtles.
I've seen damage done to vehicles when that turtle gets flung.
And
to the
that
vehicle
punctured
behind
that tire. That shows a lot.
Uh-huh.
All right, what other questions you have for us there, Chief?
All
I'm loving it. I'm digging this, man. This is fun.
right, so you know,
It builds you up your right. Oh, before you move on to the next topic, I want to say this.
Liar.
Heroes. My niece.
right.
You know what?
My niece.
I was going to mention
and my
that.
higher power for letting her get well.
See, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we sit among two heroes right now. Because I can
we are.
guarantee you,
Yes.
Sarah thinks you guys are heroes to her.
She is. They are heroes.
Guaranteed.
Heroes come in different forms. So, like I said earlier, you don't have to wear a uniform to be a hero. You know, you got dogs that are heroes that save their masters. Believe it or not, you Google it, and you'll see a lot of animals, dogs and cats, that actually save their own.
So, I like life in general. Just if you take one thing away from anything I've ever said, just be kind.
Yes.
Well, I can't promise that.
If you can't, I always tell people, be safe, be good.
Quit bullying. Cyberbullying.
Yeah, say it to the face, keyboard warrior.
You
know who you are.
I'd like to say I always had that stance, but as being a bully and being bullied,
We grew up with it.
now you can say that me roasting you guys is a form of bullying, and it kind of is.
No, because we know who you are.
Right. But
We
if
know
I
your
come in and
demeanor.
meet him for the first time and I'm like, oh, you finally got some peach fuzz going on,
What up, men chops?
it's just like, oh, you finally hitting puberty,
I'm still waiting.
That's a bully tactic to somebody that I just met. But now knowing who he is, it's like, hi, sweetheart.
Right.
But yeah, to capitalize.
And our highest suicide rate is teenagers from cyberbullying.
And dentists.
And
And dentist has the highest suicide rate in a professional profession.
really?
I thought to be therapist because crazy people like me push them right over.
You know that's right.
All right, so
Moving on.
as you guys are saying that we're heroes because we are there for his girlfriend and my sister.
She's your girlfriend? No kidding.
When did this happen?
I don't know, about 5 months ago.
But would you
When's
say
the
that
wedding?
loyalty is a type of heroism?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So is family.
Because that is literally all we're doing is making sure that our loved one is well.
Yes. Yes. There was something you said to me when we first started talking. There's family and there's friends that become family.
Right. Then you got foes.
I don't have too many of those.
I don't either. Not anymore.
Don't get me wrong. I probably do have foes and people who dislike me for something that they heard about me. Sure.
Right. You
But
got
I
your
don't
lovers,
sweat
you
it.
got your haters.
I don't sweat it because you know what? Time's short.
That's
I'd
right.
rather be around people I love.
Exactly.
Right.
And that
Shows me the respect that I deserve, and I show
Right.
them the same respect.
Yep.
Because I don't care about any of the negativity out there. You know, everything I went through in the last 3 years, you know what? To this day, I can still stand and have my head still held up high and still have a smile on my face at the end of the day. I don't really give
I
darns.
was asked one time. I have a lot of songs that are my favorite songs. It's really hard to pick out one favorite song, but the one that really hits home for me.
Brokeback Mountain.
That's the movie. I don't think they made a song about that yet.
We're making the sequel. Remember?
I'm the other guy. Yeah. We'll try to keep it PG for you young
Darius
viewers out
Rucker
there.
song.
Wagon Wheel?
No, Doors. This. The name of the song is This. About how doors close.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't make this red light. Everything happens. They say everything happens for a reason. And I have a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon saved on my phone that everything is subject to fate.
Yes.
I could walk out of this house, get in my Jeep, and get smoked by a semi.
Done it.
If I would have left 2 seconds earlier or later, I would have. Yes.
All right, so let's go that route because I have recently been in this scenario. I, was turning down the alleyway, and then someone tried to pass me like a douche canoes. Right? I thought about it instantly. Like, if I would have been moving a second faster, that would have been me.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I would have been the one being hit.
Yep. Right. Then me and Joe would have got to see you naked had they called out the fire department and EMTs. Because he'd have to extract you from the vehicle, and I would be tasked with cutting off your clothes to assess your injuries.
All right, just remember, you're in a professional setting, so don't try to get too excited.
So you
yeah,
watch the
yeah.
pictures later?
Yeah. We'll sell them on the internet. We'll send them on porno. It'll pay for your
Only
hospital.
fan.
He says,
Yeah, it'll pay for your, it'll pay for your hospital bill.
thanks,
We only
guys.
did it. We only did it because we love you.
You gotta know that,
I knew he was lying about his size.
right? So out
You're
of
such a liar.
all right, let's bring it back a little bit.
Right.
So
But yes.
We're bringing it off topic.
in comfortability, what is like one of the worst horror stories that you guys have to tell? Like, if you're not comfortable telling it, you don't have to. But
I am. I really am. It took me years. Went to this one house. There was this female,
mhm,
maybe mid-20s. Just had an infant.
right.
House was golfed. I don't remember where the husband was. But for some reason, and it's still a mystery, we can't figure it out, why she would take her infant baby instead of running out the door. Why hide in a closet? Why?
Maybe, like
Nobody knows.
something in her being
You know.
gave her that instinct. Like Tim was saying earlier, everything happens for a reason, right?
Right.
So, like, what if, something gave her the notion that this is her time to go?
You ever? I'll tell you what she looked like. It was a heroic scene. You ever look at mummified stuff?
Yes.
That's basically what they look like. Mummified.
So, like, kind of like the movies show.
They kind of look mummified.
Right.
And it was a tragedy in itself. You know, baby was like, what, a couple months old. You know, so tragedy itself, but we're human.
Right.
If you don't get upset when you see stuff like that, then you're not human. You know, and you don't have a heart. You're heartless, and that's not your job. You don't need to be in that. Of course, you know, yeah, you got to be. When you're talking to family members, yeah, you're trying to hold back your feelings, which it's no different than nurses and doctors. I'm sure they go through the same shit. People don't realize that. Oh, well, they don't give a excuse my language. They don't care. No, if they didn't care,
they wouldn't be there.
Exactly. You know, so you gotta. It's cut and dry, and it's very hard when you have a heart to keep your feelings out of it.
Right.
You know, but you got to stay professional.
It's like,
and it's hard
when, you know, someone you love, or like there's a crime scene, you know, and someone is hurt. You can't just run in there and, you know, sob over their injured body.
No. It doesn't work like that.
Right. Like, they have to do their jobs before they can console you.
Right. That's why a lot of times in the media you see them a lot after 9/11. You see it more now, like with the firefighters fighting those wildfires in California.
Oh, that's still ongoing.
When you see the pictures of the firefighters and they just look defeated. They're defeated, yes, emotionally and physically, because they were just pulled off the front line because, hey, dude, you need to go rest. But you don't want to go rest because your job's not done.
Right.
I get it.
After you're done, I want to throw something out to the viewers too that what people don't realize, and I've had a lot of people ask me why they do this.
Do what?
All right, the wildfires in Cali stretched about. It's probably I think it hit Washington as well. I've had somebody ask me, all right, why are they setting fires? Well, the reason they do that is to control. They're trying to control the
Burn
fire.
back.
Right. You know, people are like, oh, they're just making it worse. No, you're not understanding. This is what they do. This is how they can control it. A wildfire is a lot different than a burning house.
Right.
You can control a burning house to a degree. A wildfire, you ain't can control that because you got Mother Nature. You got plenty of wind blowing, and you know there's dry.
So many factors that you can't control.
So you can't put that in the same scenario as a burning house or a building chemical fire.
Firefighters can control a burn back because they can clear an area wide enough, and then once the area in front of the burn back is cleared, then they can light it and burn it back to where it literally burn,
to where they can control
all the fuel.
Right, to where they can have control.
And that's what they're trying to do. They're clearing land ahead of the fires so they can burn it back. And in the case of California, who's just went through the nasty drought, it's not always human error that starts these fires. People don't understand. Lightning. A plane crash started one wildfire because, sure, that was a human factor. Yes. Was it intentional? No.
But you do have
fires,
campfire.
You do have them idiots out there that do put cigarettes out the window.
And believe it or not, that really can happen.
Yes, especially when you're in the drought.
That this little.
I want to take a shout out to the firefighters out in Cali. Thank you.
Earlier, you mentioned you shouted out a thank you to the volunteers, and when I was coming over here to do this, I was listening to the radio, and the DJ on the radio was talking about this. This happened in Chicago. It just happened within the last month. This guy got married at one of those ritzy blah blah blahs. Was showing off his wedding ring.
Right.
And somehow he needed to get it sized, but he had just gotten married. It fell off his finger when he was
The
showing it.
reflection of the rain lit a leaf.
And no, it went into the storm drain. So what did they do? They called the fire department. And Engine Company 98 out of Chicago showed up on scene with their 6 guys. They were able to get down into the sewer and probably seen a good sized rat or 2 or whatnot, and was able to retrieve this man's wedding ring. Because I can guarantee you that marriage wouldn't have lasted that night had he went back in and told his brand new wife that yeah, my ring went down in the grate.
You did that on purpose.
But because
You just don't want other girls in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a whole, all right, like right now, firefighters in Streeter, one of their duties is to go around and check
Fire
hydrants and fire suppressions in businesses. So you're running Jordan's Mexican House of Cuisine.
Yeah, but depending on, because you got to be certified for that. And not all firefighters.
Not all firefighters. Only certain, well, like all our firefighters except for the newbies, I think that there's 4 or 5 that are not certified but are going to the classes.
You know, and
I mean, it's like every job.
And I want to say this too, and this is what really upsets me. I had a buddy call me. Gosh, it's a couple months back, and the officers, EMTs, and the firefighters are losing their jobs because they're refusing the vaccination. Okay. I think that's bullcrap, because don't you think they're dealing with the public? They already had it.
Or been exposed to it.
Or exposed to it, but I would think that the departments and our safety committees in that town or wherever, whatever state, they need to provide, because these guys are on the front lines. You fire them because they're refusing the vaccination, you're firing a bunch of good women and men.
All right, let's
Let's
take it to when it first started, right? And
we
nurses,
blew it off. We didn't know what it was.
right? Nurses and doctors, they
already knew.
working
Nonstop.
long hours,
Right.
all the time, right? Why would you fire the people who are trying to help fight it? Because them as people don't feel comfortable getting it.
And here's a funny thing, right? The nurses and the doctors and the frontline workers who worked through the initial pandemic, wearing the basics that we're being told to wear.
Yeah, they were in their
I will
PPE.
be the first to say, sure, we lost a handful of nurses and doctors and frontline people to COVID. But then there's others who never developed it.
You can have a carrier, never know you have it. And this is the thing that gets me. I don't care if you're vaccinated or not. You can still catch COVID.
Everybody in Washington is walking a tribute to that fact.
Right.
Because the Speaker of the White House has had her two shots and a booster, and she still got COVID.
Exactly. So what's the point? Are you going to tell me you're gonna fire first responders, police officers, nurses, doctors?
Well,
when those are the people we need.
And the funny thing that come out today is OSHA.
Damn, I feel like I'm on the Tom and Tom show.
OSHA is putting a stop to Biden's mandation because it goes against OSHA regulations to mandate and terminate
Not only
somebody.
that, but the Constitution.
You know, I got my vaccination. I mean, I sit there and say about vaccination, but I did mine for a reason. Health issues. But
as fuck.
you're older than me. Anyway, people need to really read up on the vaccination, because that vaccination, it's not.
Well, you're vaccinated, right? No, you are, and you are.
Yes.
Well, here is my take on the vaccination.
We're all going to be zombies within 5 years?
No.
But see, no, I read up on the paper.
Right.
And it doesn't stop anything.
They will sit there and tell you, even though you get the vaccination,
And it's
you can
not-
still get it,
Okay.
but it's just not severe.
It's not, and this is the thing. This is what I meant to say. Excuse me for confusing the viewers. It's not even approved by
FDA, CDC, somebody.
At least you tried.
the Drug Administration,
Oh,
USDA.
okay. I didn't say that one. Yeah.
It's
No.
not. It's not even
The
approved by
FDA
them.
has approved it.
Yeah, now.
Some of it.
But when they were first making everybody get it, it wasn't even approved.
And see, and that's why a lot of people don't want to get the vaccination because they rushed into it too, like the Johnson & Johnson.
That was causing what? Women with their.
They were no. Here's why it was initially pulled off the market. Young people under the age of 25 were suddenly developing issues with their hearts.
Right.
He got the Johnson & Johnson. You got the Johnson & Johnson, right? No? You got the 2-step?
I got the Moderna.
Okay, so all right, here's Mr. Jordan that got the Johnson & Johnson at age 20.
That's because they, the company.
Speaking of,
we can't say the company's name, but that was mandatory.
But that's what I'm saying. He has no underlying medical condition.
Because if I say, and if somebody catches it, I can use my job.
Yep. But they rushed into things too fast. You know, it took them how many years to develop the polio vaccine? And now they're sitting there saying with all these vaccine shots and everything else, they're recommending that it's going to be recommended that you get this COVID shot like the flu shot. Guess what then? It doesn't become a vaccine. It becomes a shot. A polio vaccine eliminates the disease.
all right, so I got a question, kind of going along lines of what you guys are talking about.
Uh-huh.
Media. It's all over. You can't miss it no matter what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
I'm going to say I'm going to be a Trump supporter here. It's fake news. Fake news. Fake news. Got to put the finger up.
All right, but how
Fake news.
much harder? I know, like, back in your guys' times, you were writing on stone tablets, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a lot harder to get
Back
by.
in the Flintstones. We
But
didn't get to meet the Justin Jets.
like, how much harder did media make your guys' jobs?
It didn't. It didn't.
Media wasn't that bad.
The media didn't.
So how bad do you think it is compared to now?
Bad.
It's bad. I think media
Needs to mind their own business.
In being,
No, you need the news so people knows what's going on. But I think
Do you though?
these journalists, they'll do anything for a story. They'll put fake stuff in there, and then you got something to do.
Which is exactly like
It's like
Word.
reading the National Enquirer.
it was like
That's
what I was
fake.
trying to talk about earlier when I asked if people did their jobs for the money and not for the passion of doing so.
Well, our understanding was you were talking about our.
We are.
profession.
Well, I
All right.
was.
No, I don't believe that.
To
Not
me-
in my crew.
I understand.
to me, news became people sitting behind a camera and reading off a teleprompter what has been scripted. To now,
What someone else found.
It's still scripted.
it's still scripted with that person's views. I miss the days of Walter Cronkite reading the news.
Barbara Walters.
Barbara Walters reading the news. Dan Rather reading the
Yeah.
news. Now, all I wanted to know is, hey,
Did you say
United
Walter
States just
Cronkite?
landed on the moon today. Great. No, I'm going to add my opinion about it. And it's like, and guess what? I don't believe they landed on the moon. They're in some freaking studio in California. Blah, blah. I don't care.
I
Oh,
don't
you're talking
believe
about
it.
back in the '60s. Yeah, that was proven that was.
But that's what I'm saying. You know, I'll come out right out and say, yeah, I love Trump because he's the anti-politician. He come out and told you what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, and he did it.
Right.
Everybody that has a problem with Trump is because they're thin-skinned and they got their boo-boo feelings hurt because, oh my God, he's tweeting bad stuff about me. I'll even come out and do this. There are two genders, male, female. If you're gay, you're gay. Whatever. Two genders.
That's
I don't need 27, 29 different. Oh, because sexual. That you got that freaking professor in New York that wants to say sexual or minor sexual pedophilia is a gender identifier now. The fuck? Because you know what, Miss whatever your name is,
You either gay.
come
you're either
introduce
gay or
yourself to
straight.
me because you're going to leave with no head.
We're definitely getting pegged for this. Flagged, not pegged.
Let's,
You'll get pegged later.
well, let's keep it off politics. You know,
Sorry. I won't be back. Hi, my name was Tim.
You're definitely going somewhere. You're on some kind of list now.
but we're gonna get blacklisted.
Well, if I can play
no,
Meredith Brooks' song "Bitch" on the radio and not get flagged by the CCC.
but those are. Hey, I just want to put this out there. This is our personal views.
Yes, this was my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's proven fact, but
But you know, that's just it. If you're a newscaster, just read the news. I don't need your opinion. And if you're an athlete, play your sport.
you know what
I
gets
don't
me?
care of what your politics.
You know, what I like to see in the news is good things that come. Quit putting the negativity in there.
You know, in all news, it doesn't matter if it's print.
Oh, he did this. He
Digital.
did that. Well, you know what? Who cares?
If it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
It's sensationalism. And to get back to your question about our jobs, back when in
There was no
the
politics.
70s and the 80s, you know, you had TV shows like Emergency, Hawaii Five-0,
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI.
Cops.
No, that's
we
even
didn't have
before
cops.
that.
Oh, I thought it was on forever.
Knight
And
Rider.
that basically Emergency
Oh,
was
yeah.
where I
Then you have
wanted to become a paramedic.
what was that hospital one?
Rampart, ER.
No, when we grew up, Quincy was the.
Oh,
doctor.
Quincy MD.
Quincy.
Yeah.
Quincy.
But you know, Trapper John and shows
Trapper,
like that.
yeah, that's what it was. Trapper John.
But for me, Chips.
Chips, yeah. That was
Emergency.
that was our very first cop show.
Yeah,
Was Chips.
Starsky and Hutch, stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the media,
The one with Robert Blake,
Beretta.
Beretta.
But the media never really.
Mm.
There was nothing relatable to us.
Right.
But now, like I said, if it bleeds, it leads. You have all these. I call 911 because your neighbor shoots his wife. I can guarantee you within minutes, and if they're high profile, you call 911 and say, hey, Streeter City Councilman Tim Geary's over here with a gun. I will guarantee you Channel 2, Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 9 will have freaking vans in front of your house before the last cop leaves. Because, holy shit, that's sensational. Oh, we got to follow this. Oh, my God.
Right.
Major story. Kyle Rittenhouse. My opinion, number one, dude, you shouldn't have been there. Number two, hey, you did defend yourself. You're not getting out of this scot-free.
Right.
It wasn't intentional, in my opinion. When you're getting attacked with a skateboard, you're getting a bullet. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight.
No,
You don't bring a skateboard to, you know, if you're that fucking innocent, why the fuck are you there anyway? I'm sorry for the bombs. That Aubrey case that's going on in Georgia or Alabama, wherever it's at,
it's crazy.
were they wrong?
But do we know the 100%
Thank you.
story? We
You're
don't.
not going to get the story 100%.
No, you're not. You're gonna know. You're gonna get what the media blows up.
Well,
to
with
get
Kyle
attention.
Rittenhouse right now, the prosecutors have a very high resolution video drone footage of what happened.
Right.
They sent it to the defense. Oh, it got compressed and degraded in the transfer.
Right.
But didn't just decide to tell the defense that, hey, we do have a higher grade version. So now they're screaming, we want a mistrial. Guess what? I don't want to hear a word in any kind of media until it's done. And you freaking protesters are standing on the steps. Go home.
Right. You're making matters worse.
Go home. What the hell are you doing there?
Which is like what we were talking about
All right,
earlier,
let's
where
get back to our.
Yeah.
someone,
I'm
you know,
sorry,
someone
sorry.
you love or like tries to run up, you know, that's also just making matters worse.
Sometimes. There's been times when the one time I went to an unresponsive, no clue why she was unresponsive. Oh my God. Vitals were semi all right. We
Still on the low side.
we can't draw blood in the field because I'm not a paramedic. I can't start an IV.
Right.
I'm not a paramedic. Daughter showed up out of the blue screaming, Mom! And
You're not
in the
having-
course of me looking to make sure, oh my God, did she get bit by a spider or something poisonous or whatever? My partner is back there. It's like, what can cause it? Does she have a bad heart? Does she have any underlying blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, there's nobody
And-
there to answer your question.
No, her heart's fine, blah, blah, blah. And in the course of her screaming, I heard diabetic. I'm like, oh. And in my kit, I grabbed my blood glucose tester and I pricked her finger. 6.
Yeah.
It's like we loaded her, we saved her. But had she not been there, this woman was she was going into diabetic shock. She was going to die.
Yeah,
But-
see, and I think that EMTs, need to be trained for that because you're not going to always have a paramedic on the ambo, even though there's supposed to be one.
Well, back when I was doing it, yeah. But and I don't know if it's because of me or my training, whatever. I was able to glean that little piece of blah blah blah, that better blah blah blah. Like what?
Well, just said the key word. Diabetic.
Opposing to what you say, well, what you said, how there should be more than just that one person trained in what you should have always one person trained for that, right?
Right.
But like if you had multiple people, trying to do the same job, and let's say they're just not very good at communicating, right?
Right.
If you have more than one person that knows how to do that job, then everyone's going to be tripping over each other to get that job done.
Yes and no. If you got more that are eligible to do it, I think you would have less
Turmoil?
victims. And you agree with that, Tim? I believe
Absolutely.
if you had, and Jordan was like, well, if we had everybody, they'd be tripping up. No, I think they all need to be trained the same. If they can't cut the mustard, then it is what it is. But that's probably one of the biggest issues with the EMTs, that they can only, and like I said earlier in the broadcast, that you ask what an EMT does. Basically, all they can do is take a basic inflammation, take your blood pressure, and give you oxygen. That's all they're legal bound to do.
And drive the bus.
Yeah, and
Very
drive the bus.
fast.
Well, there's been, like, even at a hospital, I've seen it time and time again where there are more than one person trained to do the same job,
Basically, your triage.
and
That's all you are.
they don't communicate very well. So, you got this person trying to give you this medicine, and then
Okay.
another person comes in
You're
trying
right.
to give you the same medicine.
Right. Now, that's the miscommunication in the hospital.
Right. Which
Now,
is
when
what I'm
you're-
saying.
right.
But if you have one person dedicated to
ambulance?
do that one job, there is cut and dry no way that someone can double dose you with that.
Okay, I'll give you an example. When I'm in the hospital, when the patient is trying to be stabilized, as I come in and I'm noticed I'm not needing to be utilized, my responsibility becomes I fall back. I become part of the background. And if doctor is screaming at
Wait for
nurse
instruction.
A, give me 10 cc's of Ativan. And I look at the clock and it's like at 110, 10 cc's Addy. And then I just start documenting and everything to where you have nurse A, nurse B, nurse C. You have 2 respiratory techs. You've had x-ray. You have somebody coming in that the x-ray
Blood,
tech,
doc,
well,
the
see,
blood.
usually for me, I always ran the
Laboratory.
midnight shift to where x-ray is there around the clock.
Right.
But if we had a car accident, with a closed head wound, we need a CT of the head. X-ray tech can get her prepped, but they're going to call the CT tech to come in. And it's going to take them about 15 minutes to get there. So in the process, we're getting that patient stabilized. X-ray tech is taking her over to CT, getting her situated, As the CT tech comes in, all he has to do is get her adjusted, put her on the table, boom, boom, boom. She's back over in ER. CT tech will stay there until the pathologist or the radiologist can read. To where, yes, there is a lot of miscommunication, and that's where me as being an EMT came into play, because I'm not doing anything, but I'm observing everything. To where Nurse Ratchet over there just blew this vein and had to get this vein. And then Nurse B over here.
That does happen.
It does happen. It's just set up another bag of saline, while Nurse C over here is helping lab technician draw the ungodly amounts of vials of blood needed to run all the CBC, which is a complete blood count, C7s, which is basically another blood count, the gases, cross-match in case they need to have surgeries, and everything else. That was my role. Okay, right. At this time, Nurse A, Nurse Ratchet blew this vein, boom, 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 and at the end of everything, be it the patient expires or the patient is stabilized enough to go upstairs or be transferred, Tim, where's your notes? There you go. And then they can compile, because I can guarantee you Nurse A over there, as she's taking the tab off this Ativan, it's in her pocket. This is in her pocket. This is in her pocket. And when she comes out, it's like, shit, what time did I give it? I've got it. I've got it. I've got it. It's like, well, who give this? It's like, oh, Nurse B, give this, give this, give this. So they can boom, and it all goes in. Yep.
See, now I don't know what goes on in the hospital, but I can tell you what goes on, even if the firefighters do it or the people in the ambulance do it. They're keeping record.
Right.
That's why they got that.
If I yell at him to get in the back of my bus and do compressions, I've got it documented somewhere.
Everything's written down.
I requested he get in the back of my bus and start compressions at this time.
Right.
And when we radio dispatch, we are
on our way.
We are was it 10-7 from the scene, on our way, and dispatch will repeat. Okay, you're leaving the scene
5 minutes. 10 minutes.
You're leaving the scene at 10:23. Blah blah. Our call letters. Boom. Dispatch. We arrived at whatever facility. Boom. They relay that information. Dispatch is always recorded. Always. Anytime they press their mic button, they pick up the phone. It's recorded. There is only one phone in dispatch that is a non-recorded line.
And your 911's recorded.
So, as you said earlier, with the whole DNR situation, quality over quantity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have one person that can do this, you know, and you have the other staff who are trained, you know, to keep them alive, you know, not even through injection, breaking the skin at any juncture.
Right.
If you have that one person, it makes sense. But where the fallback is on that, if there is more than one, you know, victim,
mass casualty, that's okay. I was going to stop you right there. That's why I said I think all of them need to be trained, because when you got multiple, like 10 or more, you got to set the scene.
Right.
You know, if you're only allowed to give oxygen and take blood pressure,
you're not helping the other 9 victims any help.
Well, exactly.
In a hospital setting.
And it's hard, and he knows this himself, it's hard to treat victims out in the middle of the road.
Right.
You know, because you got a lot of elements. Heat, weather, whatever. But if you got, and it's hard to get doctors there, because you do, you know, and registered nurses, it's hard to get them there.
Right.
Because they're leaving their hospital, and they're leaving
however
other
far
patients that they're taking care of.
We had a mass casualty event at the hospital.
Or even have practitioners. They're right up underneath the doctor.
Yep. We had a 2-vehicle accident out there on Airport Road. Mother and daughter in one car, and 6 teenagers in another. And the 6 teenagers blew through a stop sign that vandals had removed, and they didn't know they were supposed to stop, and they got broadsided.
They killed the mom and daughter, didn't they?
Nope. Believe it or not, no.
Wow.
Killed 2 passengers in the teenager's car.
Wow.
The one that was sitting in the middle of the back seat and the one that was sitting in the middle of the front seat.
9 times out of 10, no seatbelt.
In that instance, as soon as the tone went, the ER secretary heard the tone. She immediately called the hospital administrator and said, "We have a mass casualty event." They instantly started the phone chain, calling everybody that was available.
It's like a call center.
And when we got, the mom and daughter went to Ottawa.
Right.
All the others from the other car came to us. We have 8 rooms. And they pulled every nurse, every doctor that was in-house. They called across the street, which was the clinic at the time, had doctors from over there, nurse practitioners.
Right.
And just left ancillary staff. And very chaotic. It was a very controlled chaos. Once
At first, it's not like that.
At first, no.
Yeah.
All right. So you said when they called, they heard the tone of the voice, right?
Tone. It was a signal they sent out.
Yeah, it's just basically like as soon as the action was called in. Yep, you'll hear.
So, well, I thought you were talking about, they sound like really pain.
No.
Anyways,
It's like sirens.
back to
It's like SOS.
what I thought.
Go ahead.
What training do you need to be either a firefighter or an EMT that most people just don't know that you actually need?
Some things, the academy and all that, they can't train you for. You learn as you.
No, I mean, like,
experience of.
As you're in the academy, what they
What was
teach you-
unexpected?
right? Like psychology, or
I think the biggest thing for me was trying to talk a suicide person down with as a knife or
so you had to learn human,
that was
basically how to do human intervention.
right. That was that was the biggest thing for me because that wasn't my field.
For me, my biggest misconception was you see it on, like I said, I referenced emergency.
Right.
They rode in the ambulance all the time. They rode the rescue vehicle. That was my biggest misconception about an EMT. I just ride the bus all the time.
Right.
And do the low blood pressure and
Right.
the physical demands of the job were quite striking.
Right.
Because when you get a call to go to the 3rd floor for a woman that's having difficulty breathing, and the stairway to get to the 3rd floor is no wider than this,
Right.
and she's a very large woman.
Right.
I can climb the stairs, yes. Climbing the stairs with a very large woman, yes. Piece of cake. Coming down the stairs with a very large woman in a very narrow stairway is very physically demanding.
Right.
It's no different if you're doing a fireman ladder carry.
We had one of the Jerry chairs where she was in a sitting position, and the one person is walking forward with that, and one person's at top, and you're walking down the stairs. I didn't feel it until like 3 days later, when the backs of the legs, the calves, the neck muscles, I would say the physical.
So, I asked this question earlier, and you got our answers, but what do you recommend for the job? Now that is being said,
Would I recommend it, or what do I recommend?
No. What do you recommend to help prepare for more situations than you would if you would just do your job? What do you recommend to do outside of work?
Training.
Yeah.
Research.
Be prepared to be woke at a moment's notice.
Drink lots of water, kids.
Coffee.
Ghost.
Pop.
Well, anyway, there is, like Tim said earlier, you
Circumstances where it demands
you
strength.
well, I don't know as far EMTs don't have to go through a PT training. Firefighters do. It's
Right.
mandatory.
Right, which is understandable.
You're running up steps with the hoses on your shoulder. You're wearing your fucking full out turnout gear with your oxygen tank and your full shield, your aspirator or whatever respirator.
Anytime you're running into a building, you're automatically carrying almost 150 pounds of equipment.
And then, this is what blew my mind. This is how I knew. I was a diehard emergency fan.
I love emergency.
But you know where I knew where it was fake? First of all, back in that era, how are you on the scene with the patient and you're sending that heart rhythm and it's getting back at the hospital? They didn't have internet back then.
Oh, it's that little orange box that had that antenna.
Right, but how was that going through the airwaves to the
It was shortwave radio. It's like a ham radio.
Right, but what I'm saying is that doctor's reading
basically
his
like
EKG. That's bullcrap. We don't even have that, and we're 20.
Well, we have that now. We have
do
that.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What you guys did was throw rocks very hard because you got the writing in there. All right. So, any last things that you guys want to throw in before we wrap it up?
You asked about our funny. Go ahead.
You told us to remind you about the woman's head in the ditch.
Oh.
That's the yeah. He didn't.
He didn't get his story.
Oh, well, we got some funny stuff. We got a funny story to tell you.
Okay.
I got called to a scene.
Are you sure we should? Well, don't say no person's name.
I can't remember her name.
You liar. You know exactly who it was.
I know.
You remember what she looked like. You remember what kind of bruise she had.
Somebody decided to try to make a U-turn on a very busy road, and this lady did not see it in time and drove under the trailer. When we got on scene, they found a car seat amongst the wreckage, and I was tasked with an empty car seat, an empty child car seat, and I was tasked to see if it was empty for a reason or what. And as I was scouring this ditch, I looked down and found what I thought was a plastic bag. Turned out it wasn't a plastic bag, it was a woman's head. And all I could do is basically turn around like, I found something. Actually, when I found the plastic bag, I'm sitting there going, please don't be baby legs. Please don't be baby legs. And it was a woman's hair. And when the fire guy was coming over, he goes, please tell me it's not a kid. It's like, okay. I said, it's her head. And the sad thing about it is I could not reunite the head with the body because the coroner had to come and pronounce her dead.
We cannot touch it.
So they brought me a towel and a cone.
Who made you do it?
And I ended up covering the head and had to put the cone there with a flag and basically guard her head until the coroner got there.
What's someone going to deal with the head?
So before we get, to our funny stories, you both jobs are present for a car accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into a car accident, everything in that car becomes deadly.
Yep.
What is the oddest weapon that you have seen cause injury? Because I was in driver's ed sophomore year, and I was told that a tissue box killed somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you the bizarre thing that really will fuck you up. Excuse the French. If you get in a car accident, I suggest you don't have loose change lying around because pennies do hurt.
Make it hail.
I mean, it's not funny, but it does hurt.
Yes. The oddest thing I've been shown that had turned out to be deadly. Well, you hear the horror stories, kids dropping shit off overpasses, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Being funny.
In Ohio, if you've ever driven through Ohio, Ohio is very long and very flat and very straight. Oh my God. It's very mind-numbingly dull.
Yeah.
Well, there was an accident on 80 just outside of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Ish. It was populated, but it wasn't urban. And car just basically seemingly veered off the road and come to a stop. And fire, ambulance, police got there, and the person behind the wheel was dead with a little trickle, like a little teardrop coming down his face of blood. And upon inspection of the vehicle and the guy in an autopsy, apparently some vehicle in front of him picked up a nail that pierced his windshield, that hit him in the
Kicked
eye.
it into his eye.
And went straight to the windshield and got it.
And
That's crazy.
when the coroner was autopsying the body and there's no rhyme or reason, lower half of the body,
right,
that everything was fine. They did the head x-ray CTs and blah, 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 and there's metallic stuff.
Shrapnel.
Well, it was a sharp,
it
just
blood?
like looked like a little T.
Right.
And they did the cranial removal and took the brain out, and the coroner had to forcefully remove the brain because the nail went through the eye, went through the brain, and was protruding out the backside. Not enough to where you could feel it on the back of the skull, but it was in the skull.
So it didn't pierce outside the body.
It didn't pierce, and it was just a little nail.
Hey, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And when the officers returned to the impound and got the car, what they thought was just a simple little rock chip was actually like a little BB hole where it went.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And like you said, you knew it happened so quick because the guy didn't even have time to blink. Because, you see something coming at your face, the first instinct is blink and turn away.
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, there's always going to be some kind of injury on the eyelid.
Nothing.
Not a thing.
That's so quickly. Yeah, that's crazy.
All right.
And
Since,
I got to see that. That was quite entertaining and training.
Since we, heard that horror story, let's light the mood a little bit.
I go. Candidates. When you are a candidate, you are a candidate. That's just what you are.
Basically a freshman.
Yes.
No, you're the 8th grader coming into freshman.
Yeah.
When your veterans will tell you, and this is food for thought, bucket of steam. Please remember, if you're going to do this job, there's no such thing as a bucket of steam. Or they tell you to go get the ladder stretcher. There's no such thing as a ladder stretcher.
It's like blinker fluid.
Right. But I will tell you what you watch out for. It happened to me. So I'm sure it'll happen to you if you got that comical, you always got that comical person that you work with. I remember on a job, on a call, turnout gear sitting out there by the truck. They put mayonnaise and baby powder in my boots. Trust me, when I put that shit on real quick, all you see was a white fog. Woof. And I was in them damn shit for 18 hours. And I can guarantee you what my fucking feet smelled like when I took that son of a bitch off when I got back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't pleasant.
All right, let's hear the EMT side.
We didn't really haze each other.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. It could be like, a call or...
Well, if I could say one thing about the EMT side, but if I do that, I can probably self-incriminate myself. Yeah, we used to put the syringes, wet water in, and shoot motherfuckers in the head. And then, of course, you throw the needle.
Well,
But then you better have an explanation why there's a needle missing.
yeah, no shit.
Everything's documented.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's actually two. I'll tell you. The oddball one was the prisoner that he realized. Well, I know I'm probably going to get in trouble and flagged anyway, so I'll still mention it.
Yeah, watch what you say, because you might incriminate yourself.
Pontiac Correctional Center has very hardened criminals, and they're locked in a cell for 23 hours of their day. They come up with very ingenious ways of
Entertainment.
you can call it entertainment. Well, we had one inmate that found out that, hey, if I do stuff to myself that the infirmary can't take care of, I have to go to a local hospital. And so this said inmate found out that, things go, nice cylinder type things fit very nicely inside your penis. So anything cylinder-wise, cylindrical, we get this patient that presents with abdominal pain. And when they take x-rays and ultrasounds, this guy's got remnants of ink pens, the barrel, the ink, chicken bones. He would literally gnaw the knuckles off chicken bones and then shove the bone and keep shoving until it was in his bladder. And then he presented to the prison nurse because he's peeing blood and other not so pretty fluids.
Right. Probably infection, like pus.
So he presents, well, he comes to the hospital to have surgery to remove this stuff. Well, to him, he just got a week's vacation.
Right.
No noise, food anytime he hits that button, and he's got cable TV and all these pretty nurses to rest. Well, they kind of put a stop to it after like the third time of him doing it.
Are you talking about the chicken bone thing?
Ooh. I just couldn't imagine it.
My other funny story was we had a bus that you could remote start. You could remote activate lights and sirens, and
Right.
you could, when you played with the buttons just right, you could make it a disco. Sharon, one of our new EMTs, she was an EMT basic. She was tasked with going out to the bus to take inventory, blah, blah, blah. What she didn't know was we had just received the new, I can't think of the name, stretcher.
The one that locks into place?
The yellow one that would, if you don't.
The electronic one, they go,
Yep. Yeah. Well, she's in this ambulance and she's doing inventory. She didn't pay attention to the stretcher. She thought it was a pillow, when in actuality it was Resuscitate Annie.
Oh.
If for those that you don't know, Resuscitate Annie is that
Dummy.
mannequin that you do the mouth to mouth and the chest compressions. It's a half a body.
Mm.
So, they kind of lay around the station for practice and training purposes.
Yeah, but you're supposed to stay in the classroom.
Right. Then why am I finding them in the shower with shampoo on her face?
Oh, that's not shampoo, honey.
Yeah. In my story, it's shampoo.
And they got a mouth wide open.
So poor Sharon is in this bus. She's doing inventory, and all of a sudden, the lights. In my defense, the lights will go if the doors are open for any length of time and the bus is not running. The lights do go out, just like the new cars. If you leave your door or your headlights on for 20 minutes, they will automatically shut off. Right. She was in the bay. The doors are open. The bus is not running. She's counting, and all of a sudden, it just goes poof. I'm in front of the bus in this big metal cabinet. All of a sudden, you hear her scream, fly out of the bus, bounce off the garage door, smoke the rear doors, gets up, she runs past me into the shop. And I'm like, what the hell? And I stopped what I'm doing. She goes, that son of a bitch is on there. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, what? She goes, I'm not going back out there. I go out there and she dented the door to the bus when she smoked the garage door and spun around and smoked our door that's attached with that little aluminum knobby to the black thing on the bottom of the bus. She cattywampus the back door. She smoked it. Well, I go into the back of the bus. Here's Resuscitant Annie sitting up on the gurney. Because when they had just gotten back, whoever had the bus prior had gotten back from a CPR course, and they were on the gurney. They were covered up on the gurney because they were clean. Well, they didn't secure the gurney bed. So when the lights went off, Resuscitate Annie come up, and she looked, and that's when she screamed, and I don't think her feet touched the floor of the bus, and she bounced off the garage, smoked the door, and went flying past me.
You say she had more air time than Jordan did.
She never touched the ground.
I think she's still running.
Try explaining to St. Mary's Hospital the $700 bill to get the half door fixed.
They didn't lock that. They didn't lock the bed in place.
The bed was locked in place.
No,
the head,
the
because
head.
the new head, when you push it down, you could operate it at the foot. You can raise whatever, or you can do it manually. Well, when they push it down, you're supposed to. It goes click.
Right.
They pushed it down, and it didn't click.
But I'm talking about the headrest where you.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
They didn't have that lockdown.
Nope. And it just so happened, it must have been gradually coming up. That's the only thing I can think of.
Maybe she hit the button.
She could have. But all I know is Resuscitant Annie come up and she went out. I pissed myself laughing.
Did she get hurt?
I honestly don't think she did because she's had so much adrenaline running. She's just like, she looked like a ping pong bong. Boom, bing, bing. I'm like, why can't you move that fast on calls? But I in my head.
All right. Any, final messages that you want to tell people watching?
It's very worthwhile. It really is. You got to have heart for it. Don't go into it for a paycheck because you know what? There's no paycheck.
Whoa. We can't say no paycheck.
Okay. You get paid pennies.
You might be able to go. You get a Happy Meal.
As long as you get water instead of icy. No, go into it with an open mind. Go into it honestly with a genuine care that you want to help. Plain and simple.
Make sure that's the career choice you want. It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone, no. But it is
very educational.
Very educational, and it's not.
It's a dangerous job.
What's the word I'm looking for? You're not shoehorned in the job. You can grow. I've watched people become a basic EMT to a paramedic? It was whatever it is prior to
paramedic. I thought was the highest one on there.
One of the guys that I used to work with is now a flight nurse for Life Flight. So there are career steps.
I've told a lot
as in everything.
I've told a lot of younger kids this. If you want to do it, you get your knowledge. Start out with volunteer. Get your basic, and even with the EMTs, because I've guided a lot of people even on the EMT side if they didn't want to run through, to be in the fire department, and they were on the ambulance for 2 years. And then they ended up getting hired on the hospital in triage.
Yep. My cousin did that. He worked on a volunteer.
So it's any way you look at it, and then even as a firefighter, you can start as a candidate, work your way up to captain, chief.
Yep.
And then if you don't want to do that, you go to administration, which you could, be a fire inspector, a glorified fire exchanger.
Braden, you got anything you want to say to either our guests or our viewers?
No.
Thanks
Man,
for
if you
tuning
were-
in.
Well,
No kidding.
Thanks for tuning in.
I gotta say, thank you guys for taking time out of your day to.
Absolutely. This was fun.
Talk.
I love this.
I did. There is one thing, like with Firefighter, you do have to be 21.
Yes.
But you do not have to be 21 to take the test.
No.
And
You can still go through training.
I'd also like to say,
They changed it though. It used to be 18.
Yep.
Back when I was running, it was 18.
thank you guys for
Absolutely.
choosing the career paths that you did and putting your lives at risk for the betterment of humankind. And thank you guys for tuning in,
Thanks, guys.
even
Thanks
though
for
that
listening.
says a big fat 0.
Hey, there was 3 a couple times.
There's 4.
Yeah, there was 4 at one point.
But anyways, just like to say, like, this has been like something that I've really wanted to do for a long time.
Are we
So
done
the
with
fact-
podcast?
Yeah.
You can-
Hold on. So the fact that like we're doing it now just makes me a very happy camper.
Well,
You
you know
said that
what?
this
Tell
is
the next
something
viewers
you
when
wanna
you
do.
guys are going to be on again and what your topic's going to be.
I don't gotta tell them that. They can find out when they watch.
No,
Sorry for all the
whatever
F-bombs.
comes out.
So thank you for tuning in to A.B.J. Radio. I hope we blew your mind.
That was great.
That was good.